ahead and go back to the beginning, and we're going to go through them. This one is too neutral. The sky isn't interesting. I'm too far away, although it's possible to work with the light because there's a nice shadow, but it's coming out right away. This one, for obvious reasons, I've cropped the top of the pinnacle off, so it's coming out right away. All right, so then we have 3 of these that are very similar. And looking at the top, now I want you to look at the point of the pinnacle here. And you see how this one is in the blue, where these are shot from the exact same angle, but a little bit further apart. You see how the clouds are different in these? So I'm going to take out these 2 here, just simply because I don't like where the clouds sit on the pinnacle. You can see here, it's more in the middle, and I can work with this picture. A lot of the energy of the clouds moves in towards the pinnacle, so everything is going to be centered and focused. Now let's look at what I did this morning. I really like what's happening with the clouds here. You see how there's a nice round formation happening. And you see here there's a distance between the cloud arc and the arch of the pinnacle. The next frame, it's much tighter. So I'm actually going to take that one out because it's too tight for me. I like it a little bit looser. So we're going to go back and forth between these 2 now. Look at the difference in the angle of the pinnacle on these. Isn't that interesting? That's just from simply tilting my camera up or down. That's what the wide angle does. So we're going to go a little bit further here. All right, we're going to take this one out right away as well. Again, it's too neutral, although I do like the way the clouds are moving. I do like the way the clouds are moving towards the center of the pinnacle, but it's just a very neutral distance. All this information in the foreground here, really I just find distracting. So okay, you guys, so now we're down to 4 selections. We have this one from last night, and then these here. They're very similar. And I'm going to convert this to black and white. So I actually think I'm going to work with this image here. I like the way that I'm holding more detail in the clouds, although there's nice contrast in the clouds here. Yeah, that's a tough one there, you guys. I think, yeah, boy. Let's go back to the original. Okay, so you see we have nice bright shadow, we have nice bright highlights. We have a nice shadow with detail in it. We have clouds that direct towards the middle. I don't like the foreground on this much. Here, because there was no sunlight on the pinnacle, the natural colors sort of radiate out of it, and I can work with that in black and white. This won't be a color picture. So I'm looking at these. Yeah, I think I'm going to do this. Well, let's see here. Well, I'm zooming in a little bit to look at my sharpness. See, that one's a little soft. Tapping the screen to make it go black again. You know, I like how this one's a little darker, but I don't like the distance of it, so I'm pulling that out. It just felt too far away. So now we're down to these 3. So it really comes down between these 2, because what I'm going to do, I'm going to work up 2 of these pictures, the one from last night and the one from this morning, because I want you to see the difference in how they look. I want to actually go through and work both pictures. I'll just show you the differences of them when they're done. Yeah, I think this is my picture here. Well, my horizon line is a little crooked on this one, where I'm flat here. All right, we're going to pull this one out. So we're down to these 2 images, guys. This one and this one. And the next segment, I will edit those. Let's go ahead and open Snapseed. Hit the plus mark, open from device. We're going to favorites because I already have the picture selected, and we're going to grab this image here. So you guys, let's go ahead and go to our looks again. We have, accenture. That's really blue in the sky. So I'm going to go to, how about pop? See how less blue it is? So I think that's a good option for us. Okay, under tools, going to black and white. And then we're going to hit our filters, which will, you see how it changes? The different filtration affects the light differently. So no filter and that filter. See how that brings a little bit more in the clouds, a little more definition of that circle with the red filter. So we're going to use that filter. Next, I just want to play with these options just so you can see it there. So here's HDR scope. And look what that does with it. It just really, really, just adds a whole bunch of definition to all the light. But it just doesn't look real. I don't like the look of that, so I'm going to get rid of that. The other one I want to look at is drama. And again, these are preset filters that you can use. You can add strength of them. Hit the little book, you get the filter. So look at all this drama. So I can add just a little bit more drama in the sky that way. So we're going to go that way. Now the other thing I'm going to look at here, you guys, is glamour glow. And this sort of just softens everything up. You see how nice and soft the sky gets? That's something I like in my imagery. So we're going to go there, right in that range. Okay, good. So now a couple things I want to address. First of all is this area. You see how bright that is? There's not a lot of saturation, or there's not a lot of gray and black in there. And then this area as well. So we're going to go under Tools. We're going to hit Brush, Dodge and Burn +5, which will brighten things up just a tiny bit. So I'm just going to run it through here just a little bit, take out some of that black. Then I'm going to go to -5. Just like that. All I'm going to do is run through this part of the picture just to try and balance it out just a little bit more so that there's not a huge white area right there. All right, perfect, you guys. Now, next, we have a couple issues we have to address. You see how up here it's sort of black on top and it's darker down over there. And look at this. There's no definition between the two sides of this. It's three-dimensional. So I'm going to darken a little bit there, lighten that area, and lighten that area. So we're going to go under Brushes. Again, Dodge and Burn +5, and I'm just going to bring my finger through this area just a tiny bit, just to kind of help pull that out, just to balance it a little better. And again, up on top here, just a little bit. I know it's in shadow, so I don't want to take it all the way out. Okay, now we're going to go to -5, and I'm just going to drop in through here, just a tiny bit, just to bring this down. And it'll help support that three-dimensionality of this. So you see, there's a little. It's still close. I need to go a little darker, but it's starting to create this sculpting of the light by darkening it down just a tiny bit. So again, -5. I'm just going to run my finger through there one more time. Now we're getting a good shadow in there. There, you see that? How now it shows there's two sides to it, so you get that sculpting of it. All right, now let's look at the sky for a second here. It's a little bit bright compared to everything else. So I want to bring it down some. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down to Vignette. And I just want to look at what it does when I vignette things, just a tiny bit. I won't actually use the Vignette tool. You guys. But what it does is it allows me to get an idea of what's going to happen with the light. So next thing I'm going to go up under Image Tune. I'm going to hit Brightness, and I'm just going to run it down just a little bit. Just want to see what happens. So I like where it's going there. Now I'm going to add some contrast into it, and you're going to see that this bottom part I'm not too worried about. So right about there. Now we're going to go up under here under this, View Edits, Image Tune, and you see that little box right there? We're going to click that box. Now what happens, wherever I rub, will have that effect done to it, and where I don't rub, it won't happen. Now we got to zoom in. You see I have all of this overbleed. I'm going to go to 0 down here and just come in and clean up that overbleed just a little bit right through here, just like that. That way we don't have kind of blurring of the, there we go. You see the difference, how that just popped up? So now we got a deep saturated good black in the sky, nice curvature of it, and the pinnacle really stands out. Now we're going to darken this out. We're going to lighten that a tiny bit more. So let's start here. We're going to go to Dodge and Burn -5. So I'm just going to run my finger through this area just a little bit. And the whole point of that is that I want your eye to get up into here and not get lost in all this detail on the bottom. That's perfect. And see where I've hit the eye symbol, where it turns red, where I've worked. Now I'm going to go to +5, and I'm going to zoom in on this cloud area just a tiny bit here and just lighten it just a tiny bit. There we go, good. And that'll help balance it out just a little bit more. I still feel I'm a little heavy dark around the edges of this, which feels a little bit overburned. So dodge and burn, +5. I'm just going to zoom into these areas and just hit them a tiny bit more, just like that. And especially like right there where it really got hit hard, and right there. Okay, that should help with that feeling of, okay, perfect. That's better. Okay, one other thing I like to do with my work, which is I warm up my black and whites just a tiny bit. So you saw where I went to Tools, Image Tune, Warm, and I'm just going to add about 10% of warmth to this right in there. And there we have it, you guys. Great. Export it, save as a copy, and now it's in our camera roll. And the next piece, I will break this down and describe what makes this a successful picture. I'm going to share with you 5 pictures. One I shot last night, and that's what we're seeing right here, right now. I like the picture fine, but it didn't really, the clouds didn't really support the drama of this pinnacle of rock. And I like the way the movement, everything moves towards it, but I got up this morning and went back over there, and there's a very different cloud formation happening. And I really like this. It's a very different experience. I'm just going to click through all these real quick so you can see what they look like. This is the one that I chose. But the reason I'm showing you these different edits is I want you to consider the fact that sometimes when I'm working a picture, I will start at one point and think I'm done and then look at it again later and realize there's more to do. So this one is just too contrasty. Everywhere you look, there's it doesn't look natural or real. There's just too much contrast in this picture. Compositionally, what I was looking for, what I liked, and by doing it dark, was I liked this movement of the light through here. It kind of shapes that pinnacle of rock, which I thought was cool. So I went here, and it's just too flat. I mean, I could continue to adjust it, but I'd scrapped it, and I ended up going with this piece. So let's talk it through real quick. I really like this area that stands out right here. It's the brightest part of the rock, and so it brings your eye to it. Then everything else sort of feathers away from that point. As you see it, it all kind of moves away from it. It gets a little bit like flat, a little bit darker as you go. So it gives you a nice center focal point for your eye. The next thing I really like is, I pointed this out earlier, it's this shape of the clouds. But you see how the clouds in this they don't look like they're unrealistic. They're dark, but it's a black and white picture. And so that makes sense. The other thing I did in this is I darkened this whole area up because I wanted your eye not to be distracted by this foliage down here. I want you to see it's there. So I darkened it, and then I just lightened this little bit of area back. I just kind of cleaned it up, just brought it back a tiny bit so I could, sort of feather the light into this main point. You'll see I do that a lot. I've talked about this before. I like to put the brightest part of my picture in the background and have everything else lead you into that point. That's really important in my work to do that. So as I worked this file, I lightened this area a little bit more. I lightened this area a little bit more. I already told you I lightened these areas a bit. But the other thing I did was, this was a little flat in here because the light's fairly flat. So I darkened all this area overall. And then I came back in and I slightly just dodged it back just a little bit, just picking my points of attack where I dodged it back. And I did that because I wanted to feel selective. Again, I'm trying to create the feeling of it being a three-dimensional image. It's a two-dimensional surface, but I want it to feel three-dimensional. But what really sold me on this picture was this formation of the clouds. That ring it makes around this pinnacle just is such a neat eye-grabbing experience. And originally I had darkened all this way back, just darkened it back a bunch, and I really didn't like it very much. You can see here, it competes with the circle. And so keeping it a little quieter, it felt more natural. And then we're able to just simply work our way through this image and just sort of see it and enjoy it as it sits like that. So I'm going to show you the original now. That's the original shot. And so you can see that this is a light, this area is brighter, this area is darker. And I tried to work with that as much as I could. And you can see there's this great line right through here where the light naturally makes that darker oval around it. You can see that. And so I kept just building that and working with that. You can see how I reinforced that idea through here just by very lightly dodging and burning my way through it. And so the point to this is it's looking deeper into what's in front of you. The more you know your workflow, so the more you play with pictures and begin to learn what they'll look like as you manipulate them, as you play with them, you'll be able to go from seeing a fairly blah moment, but see deeper into it, to see some of the aspects of the image that are going to create a solid finished piece of art. And as always, please subscribe to the channel. Send me your thoughts. Is there a picture you want to see or a technique you'd like to see me working on? I'm more than happy to do that for you. Have a great day, guys.